Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. It is time again to give you a nice weekly dose of obscurities in literature. So, this particular book in front of us, I didn't know actually existed until somewhat recently, and actually spent some time trying to hunt it down, and that is The Eyes of Bayonetta. Now, it came to my attention that these books exist for all three of the main games in the series. We're just going to happen to take a look at number 3 because that was the only one that I could get my hands on for a relatively reasonable price. Although I do prefer, I think, number 2 overall. I mean, 3 was good. 3's got some cool stuff to it. Obviously, if you haven't played these yet, well, there's going to be massive spoilers, I guess. If you have no intention of playing them, well, then you've got a nice visual feast for you. So, I gotta say, the artwork for this one, I did not like Bayonetta's hair in number 2. I'm just gonna throw that out there. The short hair didn't do anything for me, but I couldn't stand her hair in number 1 either. But man, oh man, were they fun games to play. This book clocks in at nearly 400 pages, which is kind of surprising. If you're not familiar with Bayonetta as a series, they are very intensive, stylish action games and incredibly over-the-top, tongue-in-cheek, just absolute out-and-out cheesecake at times. It's ridiculous. It may not be Dead or Alive series of over-the-top, just gratuitousness, but there's some interesting things going on, and I don't want to, cloud your judgment or sway you one way or the other, but there's definitely some interesting undertones between all the various characters in the game. And I'll just leave it at that. And there's also some very choice, colorful language. So you have a quick breakdown of everything. The book is divided into 5 main chapters. You've got the characters, which are going to be all of the digital stuff. You have all of your enemies, and then you get into the bulk of the book, which is actually going to be the artwork and then some backup stuff as well. We start off with just some straight renders for most of the characters. I'm not going to have everybody in here because obviously, like I said, there's some serious spoilers. And I'm not going to explain what most of this stuff is if you haven't played it, but you start to get into the fun parts of the various demon masquerades, which are like your transformations, which you can turn into in the 3rd game, which was quite fun. You have the actual demons that the witches have contracted with. Let's say, I believe it's mostly just Bayonetta stuff, but I could be wrong. And there's some definitely interesting characters in these games. After that, we get into the various weapons of Bayonetta. Every game having new sets of guns, of which she has 4 strapped to her feet and in her hands, with 3 barrels, naturally. I thought 4, yeah, I'm looking at the guns. 3 had a lot of interesting stuff to play around with, but then again, so did 1 and 2, and there are a few returning friends, the Mobdachi being a big one. I always loved playing with that sword. And yeah, I did actually get it unlocked in the original game, I believe. And I don't even know if I unlocked it. I don't remember playing through it, and I swear to God my wife did. She has no recollection of it, and I do not remember really sitting down to play it myself. But maybe that's just a crazy fever dream of mine. I don't even know anymore. Now, the enemies are probably the primary reason I wanted to get this. And if you're familiar or not with the 3rd game, all of the enemies are these synthetic creatures based on a lot of the demons and angels from the first 2 games, which is a few, but I thought it was an interesting choice, and I'm not going to spoil much about it. Yeah, some of these are like seriously spoilers. But again, towards the back of the book, and the good chunk of the middle third of it, is nothing but the actual rough designs. And again, for somebody who's really interested in just like character design and the breakdown and how they got all this stuff figured out, it's really interesting to me to see just the level of detail going into, like the stickers on the katana scabbards. I mean, most people aren't going to pay attention to things like this, but obviously the designers are. So it's very cool to see all this stuff, all the various scrolls, banners, decorative bits, getting some time spent on all the various, you know, choices that were going into, what's her name's shirt here. Luca always looked far too cool for considering what he was like in the game. No, Enzo. There are many, many designs for Bayonetta herself. Some inherently cooler than others. And again, like I said, some of the fun of just the various designs on the eyes, on the jewelry and emblems, the various transformations that she goes through. A lot of fun stuff. And again, yes, she fights a train, but then again, she was, you know, fighting on top of flying stealth fighters in the second game, too. So that shouldn't come as any surprise. And if you're looking for some weird, unique enemy ideas, and this is what I'm into, the initial ideas, where you see some of the early concepts of this stuff, is where things, I think, really particularly shine. And just the various iterations that the designers have gone through. Again, early Bayonetta costume art. And as we have with most of these types of games and design books, you get a lot of the background stuff. And what's crazy is, you know, I can't recall too many of these that actually went into detail over the various signage even that you see in the games. So I thought that was kind of a cool touch. Some of the more populated areas in it. Again, lots of interesting concepts in here. Lots of breakdowns of how some of the more elaborate and fancy set pieces are supposed to work. Good old gates of hell. How the jewelry is supposed to work. So there's a lot of cool stuff here. And again, if you're interested in these games, I absolutely recommend them. If you're not up on them, I don't know if it would be as exciting. I thought the concept art was pretty cool to have in the back there. For like just the kind of prologue, preliminary images prior to the game's actual conception. As they're getting it storied out. It's cool to see how much of it actually ends up in the games itself. We've got a bunch of clips in the final back part from the various games, which I thought was kind of a cool little touch, rather than just the one. And you wrap things up with the song lyrics in the back, and a recap of the cover. Someday I hope to get number 2s. Number 1's not as exciting. I know it came with like a DVD or something about how to play it or something like that, and at this point, I mean, I've played it, and I'll probably play it again, but I don't know how determined I am to bother with that. And considering the prices for the previous books versus this, if this is something you're interested in, at least the third book is of a lot more palpable price range. So something to keep in mind there. And with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.